If you want to get your ex back, you need to be aware of 6 traps that will be waiting for you during this process. Here's the full list. Trap number 1. You let your ex take advantage of you. This trap mainly affects men who, after a breakup, continue to help that person excessively, for example with various small household chores, paying some bills, large or small, or buying different kinds of gifts. Unfortunately, this leads absolutely nowhere. The only exception is when your ex shows you a lot of interest. You can see they really care about you, that they're concerned and thinking about getting back together. Then they'll ask you for something. Okay, you can help her from time to time, but it's completely unacceptable when your ex explicitly says you'll never be together again, that you should forget about her, yet she keeps using you in some way and treats you a bit like her servant, having you drive her here and there and helping her in all sorts of ways. And if you resist and say no, she punishes you with her lack of interest and plays with your emotions. This is really terrible, and you have to break this vicious cycle and say directly, sorry, I'm not going to help you anymore. Do it as gently as possible, don't hold a grudge against her for using you until now, because that's not the way either, but definitely stop paying. Stop helping your ex, at least excessively. Trap number 2, you let yourself get sucked into feeling guilty because now you're becoming a challenge, and now you're the one who doesn't want anything. This happens relatively often in situations where your ex starts to care about you again. Meaning before, those feelings were very low. She or he made the decision that it's over. And now, when you start doing what works, working on yourself and becoming a challenge, your ex is already curious about what's going on with you. She sees that you're no longer interested in her, like you were just a few weeks or months ago. She might throw these hostile lines at you like, oh yeah, I can see how much you cared. You said you loved me, and now you're over it so quickly. It wasn't love, it wasn't worth anything, and so on. That's a very good sign. There's that underlying hostility because she's already feeling the loss. But at the same time, it's a huge trap because you can't say no. Actually, I still love you. I want to get back with you because you'll ruin everything you've already built. In such a situation, you have to say directly, look, we broke up. I've moved past it. I'll always have some respect for you, some feeling that's left over from those past years. I'll always have fond memories of what was between us. But we've moved on, so don't expect me to be chasing you like I was right after the breakup. Well, now we're living our own lives, even though it didn't work out in the end. I'm glad I met you, but we have to move on. Something like that. Of course, I'm just speaking off the top of my head now, but you'll be speaking off the top of your head too. So the most important thing is to remember the gist and try to soften the hostility on one hand, but on the other hand, don't let yourself get pulled into this trap. Trap number 3. You react too quickly to signs of interest from your ex. Unfortunately, this is a very big mistake and a common trap that people fall into. Because if you still care about this person and you finally see that your work is paying off and your ex is becoming more interested in you, it's easy to immediately agree to a meeting, to immediately drag out phone calls for an hour or two. But that would be a big mistake, because even though you've become a challenge now, it's still a delicate situation. If your ex senses that you actually still care all this time, those emotions can very quickly drop off again. So on one hand, you have to give a little of yourself, but still maintain that challenge frame, and show that you're a bit elusive. You can't react with excessive enthusiasm to the first signs of interest from your ex. So if your ex calls you, answer, talk for a bit, but you should be the first to end the call after a few minutes, or at most after 10 or 15 minutes. If they suggest a meeting, say, great, you're very happy about it, but you don't know if you can make it yet. I'll check my plans and call you back tomorrow or the day after. You have to keep that person in a bit of suspense regarding whether you still care, but then you can call and say, listen, I can make it after all, so let's meet here and there. What do you think? This is a really key issue, so remember this trap. Trap number 4, you react poorly to the offer of friendship. Your ex says to you after the breakup, maybe we can stay friends? And you say, no, I'll never be friends with you. Either we get back together or it's over forever. And then you call that person, you suggest a meeting. So what is she supposed to think? That it'll be a friendly meeting, or that you want to get back together and you care about pursuing that person again? Of course you want to get back together, because obviously you don't want to be friends. So if your ex ever makes the suggestion of staying friends, you have to answer, sure, of course. I have nothing against that. And later, when you're in touch, you can suggest, how about we go out for a friendly beer or a friendly coffee, and you keep your ex in the friend frame. and that will be very attractive. And anyway, a real friend frame is never a threat to you, because that applies to people who were never together and who never shared any feelings. Trap number 5, you take on the burden of developing the relationship too quickly after your ex shows some interest for the first time. This is a bit different than just reacting too enthusiastically to the first signs of interest, which we've already discussed. Here, it's more about the fact that if your ex shows you some interest, calls you, it'll be a nice conversation. You'll react well to it. You'll talk for a while, but you'll end the call first, and then you'll be the one calling, texting, immediately suggesting meetings, and pushing for contact. Especially if you see some signs of lack of interest along the way. That will be a big mistake. And this is a trap that makes it so you can stop being a challenge again and move many steps backward and even stifle those feelings that started to grow on your ex's side again. So if you've noticed that some interest is starting to appear on your ex's side, you have to be very careful to keep developing that relationship. Try to match what your ex does almost exactly. So if she calls, you can call back later, but only once, and then wait for her to make the next move. At least a week, maybe even longer. If she doesn't, you can reach out again to remind her of you. For example, try at least once, but never push it too hard. Similarly, if you were the one to suggest the last meeting and it went well, now wait for not necessarily another meeting invite from her, but some kind of signal, a text or call, to give her enough space. If there's no signal, give her even more space, so she doesn't feel like you're calling or texting every single day or every other day. This is really important, so watch out for this trap. Trap number 6, agreeing to get back together too quickly. This is the kind of problem you'd want to have. It's when your ex is clearly very interested in you again. She tells you straight out she wants you back and asks if you want the same. And you say yes, thinking you've succeeded and everything's great, but the next day it turns out she's pulling away again. It turns out that winning you back so easily after all that uncertainty showed her that you weren't a challenge at all, that you were just too easy to get. And unfortunately, that's just how our emotions work. It's brutal, it's unfair, but that's the way it is. Don't get upset about it. Just use this knowledge in your strategy. So if you ever hear that question from your ex, the ideal response is to say something like, I don't know. I won't lie, I think about you too, but right now I'm not sure how I feel and I don't want to make any promises. If you want to, if you care, let's just hang out and see where it goes. But let's keep it casual with no strings attached for now. That's roughly how your communication should look. So on one hand, you don't say, no, we'll never be together because you don't want to punish them for good behavior, but at the same time, you don't give yourself away completely or act like you're back together because that's often a huge mistake. This process of getting an ex back after a breakup is much deeper than just avoiding traps or being a challenge. You need to do some real deep work on yourself, understand the true reasons for the breakup, and gain essential relationship skills. And that's exactly what we help with at our Relationship Psychology Institute. So if you don't want to go through this alone and want to maximize your chances of winning back the person you love, I invite you to book your first free consultation right now, where we'll see if you even have a chance and how we can help. And if so, we'll present our full program and explain in detail what our support looks like. So go to institutezvyazkov.pl right now and book your first free consultation. Talk to you in. Robert Marshall, relationshipinstitute.pl.